we actually have several of the ThryvOn candidate varietal backgrounds out here. And we planted those out here for a variety of reasons, some of which is going to be very successful in 2020 and some not. Our intent was to characterize varieties and their response to growth regulation. We've not had a season where growth regulation was at a great premium, where we needed a lot of it. However, we have had the opportunity to apply our passive treatment, our passive regime to these plots. We have not had the need to apply the aggressive treatment. There will be some learnings that come from that are particularly important at this stage of a technology development. One of those is, what are the characteristics of the varieties? We actually have an untreated plot out here that has had no growth regulation applied, and it's just growing like cotton plants do in our normal environment here in Scott. That's going to tell us the characteristics of the varieties relative to each other. It's also going to tell us what the response of those varietal backgrounds were in the environment where we tested those this year. What you can see, I'm looking at this plant in my hand, and this is one that's representative of the cotton I'm standing in. Is extremely high fruit retention, big healthy bolls. It's really good cotton to not be much more than about half thigh high. And that's one of the characteristics and contrasts in cotton versus other crops. Just because you got a big, robust, tall plant doesn't necessarily mean that that plant's better. The reason it's important to have a variety trial like this with the ThryvOn technology and the varieties that contain it prior to going commercial is there is a significant learning curve associated with adopting a new cotton variety. And this goes back to some of those things I've been talking about previously, in that we need to test these things, make sure they work in the environments and they're adapted for the systems we're trying to grow them in. For that reason, we need to do this as early as possible in the development process, so when a grower gets ready to buy some of these varieties, they make it through the system, we prove that their fiber quality and yield characteristics are acceptable. We can have information that give guidance about how they should be managed and how they should be placed on each individual farm when people choose to buy them and use them. Notes from the variety trial at this point is we're just to the stage where the varieties will begin to separate significantly from each other in their growth characteristics. Had we had that very aggressive growth phase early in the year, which we did not in this particular case, there might be a little bit more difference out here, but at this stage, the maturity and the fruiting characteristics of the plants will begin to make them stretch variety to variety. So then we can see if one's radically earlier than another, does one fruit higher than another. So that information is all developing from here to harvest.